Hello everyone! Found a little bit of time in my schedule and so I did a surprise live stream. And yeah, basically shipments got messed up. Only picked up 2 boxes of plants today with a landslide of plants landing tomorrow. You know, delays are going to happen. That's what's going to happen. So I found myself a little bit of time in the day. Not a lot, but a little bit. So I spent it with you guys. Now you might notice, surprise, you can see the backdrop of the new 800, well not of the new backdrop of the old 800-gallon aquarium. It is still a little murky, but I didn't want to spend all the time to cover it up because that takes time. So I thought, spend that time with you guys answering Q&A, and maybe we'll even get some of those European viewers or something today since it's earlier. What are the two drawbacks? Wait, what are the drawbacks of using Maracyn 2 in a quarantine tank? I don't know. I've never been able to get Maracyn 2 to actually cure anything. So I guess the drawback is I've never got it to cure anything. That's a pretty big drawback considering it's a medicine. So now I've only tested it a few times. You know, there's only so many times I'm willing to like let animals suffer or die, and like, well, that's not working. So I have to go back to something I know works. And once I find something that I know works, then all of a sudden there's no reason to go, well, let's go try other things that might not work. That just seems counterintuitive. Now, if I run into an immunity thing or anything like that, that forces me to go search, or a product no longer becomes available, then sure, yeah, we have to do that. But yeah, Maracyn 2 I've never had success with. Doesn't mean you're not or won't, just means I haven't. So I don't have good insight for you there. Sorry. High temperature Corydoras for Hypancistris or discus, Sturbis. I'm trying to think. Well, here's the reality. The reality is probably most Corydoras. When I was in Peru and we would see Corydoras, the common behavior is that the babies will go up towards the shore, right? So imagine you've got the river, and obviously the river slopes down and gets deeper and deeper and deeper, right? And up here, this is where you might be standing up here, and then it slopes down, right? Well, big predator fish are super big. They got to be in the deep part. They can't get to here. So the babies are smart enough to go and get real close to the shore. So the water's only like that deep, right? They can see any birds coming at them. That's really nice for them. So when you go to look at them, they scatter. But then also the predators can't get to them. Now, that water that is very shallow, typically in a river, there's rocks and things like that, so the flow is very slow. That water gets very, very warm. And you've probably experienced that at a lake or a river, in a slow part where you kind of walk in, like, oh, the water's pretty warm, and then you go and you get up to like your chest and you're like, it's freezing in here. And so most Corydoras, when they're young, at least the ones that I saw, and we saw, you know, I didn't see every species, there's hundreds of species, right? But we saw a lot. I think most of them can tolerate those high temperatures, but just know that they're going to want to eat a lot more. They're going to have high oxygen requirements. They're going to be, you know, breathing faster. And so there's some that are known, like maybe a salt and pepper Corydora, Paleatus barbatus, those kinds that are known to be cooler tolerant. I probably wouldn't also test those to be the hot water ones, but I would wager that, you know, like emerald, albinos, Sturbis, maybe I would try pandas, maybe I would try like Brochus multiradiatus. I would try a bunch of them, and I think they would work. Adolphi, I think you could have some success. Now, high temp is relative, right? There's some people that run discus at 90 degrees. There's some people that run at 82. At 82, that's not high temperature. It's warmer, but it's not high. I consider high to be 85, 86, 87. That's getting warmer. And you get, you know, part of it is, I think fish don't necessarily always die to the heat. I could probably do a video about this, right? Like I've got a video coming out on Sunday about live bear disease. I could probably do something about heat. I don't think it's the actual heat that kills the fish. I think it is everyone's hormones are racing. Warm water means time to breed. Got to make babies before it cools back down. Need more food. More aggressive, more crabby. All of that kind of stuff is displayed in lots of different fish. And so I think all of those factors lead to a stressful environment, on top of maybe there's not quite enough oxygen, probably not quite enough food going in to sustain breeding every day and eating and having a faster metabolism and all those factors. And then over a period of time, I think that's a lot of times where we'll see like, oh, those tetras or that only lasted like 3 or 4 months. And it's because they weren't getting enough food and all these little micro stress factors added up to maybe an illness or something like that that became the bigger thing that took them down. That's my hypothesis. I haven't done, you know, a bunch of test tanks where I'm testing this long term, but it's what I see with customers, what I've seen with myself, what I've noticed. Because I myself have been able to take many fish very, very hot and also fairly cool, but I try to always think about what's causing stress. So if I'm taking them really cold or really hot, I know that's one of the stress factors. So I try to compensate and make sure everything else is not a stress factor. All right. Thank you for the new members. Live plans delivered from Aquarium Co-op and then an alert to the phone about a live stream. Maybe I should head straight to Vegas now. Your luck might be with you today. Let's see here. So if you're a member, by the way, don't spoil what we're doing with the tank. You guys have seen, you know, the fish are going in and that kind of stuff at this point, but I've got a lot of planting to do. This tank is still probably, I think we're 6 weeks to 2 months from being done. To do it right, I don't want to jeopardize getting, you know, we know Ladybird's going there, my moo puffer. I don't want a chance getting her sick. I want the plants to grow in well. I want to do this right, and I don't need to rush it, so I'm not. And you know, like right now, we're just letting, you know, these. So people are gonna ask where'd the background come from, where'd the decorations come from. They came from Universal Rocks. I couldn't recommend them less. That's right, less. I don't like that. I don't have a good experience with that company. So it just, everything's coming in crazy dirty, crazy long delays, crazy fungus issue that I documented growing on this stuff. So that's why I'm cycling it extra long. And you guys get a little that in a video at some point. Now, the unfortunate part is there's like almost no competitors. There's one in Canada. There's like one other place. And I think we're just at a point where there's not very many good options. And so I'm forced, you know, to do that. And what you guys probably wouldn't know. And so there's always a scale, right? Like if something's really cheap but awesome, you're like, you know, I'm okay with that. But when it's really expensive and the quality is not there, that's a problem, right? And that's what I keep running into time and time again. You know, like this piece of fake wood, this cypress knee thing, you wouldn't know it, but before shipping, that is $800, which is crazy. And I realize this is it's a 44-inch tall piece that goes out of the aquarium. I don't remember how much that one is. I think it's in the $300 to $500 range. These are not cheap pieces, but the amount of like stuff you got to do, and this time they even sent a repair kit. It's like they knew it was going to arrive broken on the pallet, which, by the way, it did. It did arrive broken. The top of this $800 piece is broken off. Luckily, it's going to be out of the aquarium anyway, so I don't even raise a stink. But yeah, that's why I can honestly say I don't recommend investing your money unless you are in a situation where I am. Like, there's no other options for 800-gallon aquarium tank decor. If there were other options, or I had time to build my own, I would do that. But I don't. So I'm forced to kind of, and I won't say it's terrible, because it's not terrible. I just feel like there's a lot of space for improvement in this. And so, yeah. All right, let's chime in. Hopefully some more questions. I got some clown loaches and serpe tetras 2 days ago. I tried to feed them flakes and frozen brine shrimp. What should I try to feed them? I'm guessing you mean they haven't eaten those yet. I would try frozen bloodworms. That's one that I find fish have a hard time turning down. Now, it can take some time to settle in. Live foods are best. I just got some fish in quarantine for this tank. Unfortunately, the second group of them came in really rough. Like, out of 600 of the fish, it's been what? I got them in Tuesday. Today's what? Thursday? I'm down to maybe 150 of them, where the first batch of 600 came in, and I probably have 550 out of the 600, like through the quarantine of them. And this one, they just, in the bags, they were not good. Like massive casualties, which is really disappointing. It's always sad and not good. But where am I going with that story? They did take live baby brine shrimp the first day. So a couple hours after in the tank, you know, they're starting to perk up a little bit. Then I feed a little bit of live baby brine, just because I know it's been a couple of days since they've had some food in their system. Before I put meds in there, I want to get a little bit of food in there because they were just looking really rough. And so if you got live foods, like if you had some mosquito larvae, or you could get that going, put a bucket outside and let some mosquitoes lay some larvae in there. You could net that out and put that in there. They'll probably go nuts for that. But frozen bloodworms would be the other one I would try. What do I recommend for a centerpiece plant for a beginner with no CO2 and a Stingray 40-inch light with a 55-gallon aquarium? Go to our website and buy yourself a dwarf aquarium lily. In my opinion, it's the best centerpiece plant that's easy. I'm going to put one in the 800-gallon. I've got some in my tanks in my fish room right now. You guys haven't seen that. We're kind of doing a big overhaul, but it is honestly the best centerpiece because you get reds out of it. It's super easy to grow and it's cheap. It checks like all the boxes. And even if you're like, well, I'm in Arizona right now and it's on fire, like it's so hot here, we ship them in peat moss, peat moss, or not peat moss, but peat. So they're insulated from the heat a little bit more also, and because they're just a bulb, they tolerate it way, way better. That's one of the reasons why we went to just a bulb form, is because if we sent it to you a little bit grown, those leaves would melt back in the heat. And even the farms are having trouble with that, so that's why we went that way. Started using live baby brine shrimp in my platy breeding tank. It is life-changing. Preach the brine shrimp. Candy is awesome, and my order shipped in 2 hours. Is Scarlet Temple the best noob red plant and an ETA on this? There's a lot in that. Okay, I'm going to decipher that. Baby brine shrimp does change the way you run a fish room. You start interacting with it every day. It's a very good live food. Babies start growing faster. You start getting babies that survive that you didn't know were babies before. Maybe they were getting eaten. It is very good. That's why we're putting a lot of attention towards it. We'll have our own brine shrimp eggs coming. We're working on salt. We're working on some other features to make it just as easy as possible for you guys. It's kind of the next easy lineup. You know, we got easy fertilizer. It's going to be easy brine shrimp, essentially. Is Scarlet Temple the best noob red plant? It's easy. So it's easy to grow if you have high light and good fertilizer. But most plants are pretty easy to grow. I think the easiest red plant is that dwarf aquarium lily, which I was just talking about. Because that one, you don't even have to have high light. You don't even have to really add fertilizer, like a little bit of root tabs, or have a very well-established tank where the gravel's really filled with fish poop. I think that is the absolute easiest. Scarlet Temple is easy. I think Cryptocorn Wendeti Red, or Pink Flamingo, or Tropica, or Florida Sunset. I think any of those are slightly easier than the Scarlet Temple. But Scarlet Temple for a red stem plant is pretty easy. You could also argue a plant which we don't carry, Ludowigia repens. That's pretty easy also, but it's real hard to ship well and not just kind of have what I don't like about that plant is whenever we're selling it and dealing with it, it's always in like a trauma scenario of like, you never receive and you're like, this thing's amazing, ready to go. It's always like, oh, it's always like, well, we'll nurse it back. And once it's in your tank, it's great. But selling something where I'm already starting you guys on a path of like, oh, this is going to be horrible, is not what we're trying to do. And every vendor takes their own stance on that. And we target, our official target is getting people into planted aquariums and stuff like that. Yes, if you're a well-seasoned aquarist, you can take advantage of that as well. But we really want to help people that have never had a planted tank before to start, clicking and buying stuff, and for the most part have success. Now, if a plant doesn't lend itself to that, we try to avoid that, or at least have enough disclaimers and really, so that's where people get mixed up when it's like, well, this site says this plant's easy, this one says it's hard, this one says it's really hard. It's someone's determination of, ranking as cake better than pie, Snickers, Reese's, that kind of stuff. Like you're kind of ranking in my experience, I would put it here versus here versus here. All right, Doki. How do you know how much to feed fish? That's probably a good article for Irene to write. In general, I like to feed pretty heavy, but I have auto water changes. I would say enough so that I can see their belly has become slightly larger. Not huge, but I'll be able to visually see that I fed. And that's a good difference for me there. Which takes a lot of brine shrimp, by the way, because I've been feeding a lot of brine shrimp lately. Henry Chavez. Is it Chavez or Chavez? I don't know. I'm bad at this. Tank's looking great. I was wondering if you could take a look at my Oscar photos and let me know if he's developing Popeye. Somebody in Reddit told me his eyes are too bulged up. The nitrates are 20 to 40 parts per million. So Henry, I can't guarantee you that I can take a look. Now, there's a chance I'll take a look, but I don't, if I say, oh, I will take a look, now all of a sudden I'm like taking a look at everyone's fish on the internet. You can definitely send some to our website. Candy will take a look. If she looks at it and go, oh yeah, that's Popeye. Yeah, let me just tell this guy it's Popeye. Blah, blah, blah. If she doesn't know, she'll escalate it to me or Robert or Randy or Dean. You know, someone who's got, well, this is going to make Candy sound like she's not knowledgeable. That's not what I'm trying to say. A lot of times you want a second opinion. And even I will go, hey, Dean, does this look like Popeye to you? I'm not sure. And you get that second opinion, and they're like, okay, we're going to recommend, yeah, we think this is our best educated guess, because a lot of times we're just guessing. So there's two things you can do here. You could ask for some help. We can give you some help. That's good. Two, you could prophylactically treat. And so that's like I'm versed at this level of disease. Like, it's not high, it's not super low. I'm just like, I'm an aquarist. I've seen some stuff. And if I thought I had Popeye on a fish, I would treat with the erythromycin or an antibiotic. Now, you might not be able to get it, or you might have to get it across the border. I don't know how that goes for you. The other thing that could work very well as well is salt. If you don't have live plants in there, which kind of unlikely with an Oscar, but could if it's a baby. Some salt will fight off the bacteria, and that's what causes Popeye, by the way, is the eye starts protruding with bacteria and fluids and stuff building up behind the eye. And if you can start addressing that, you get that to come back in. You can also get that when like an organ failure, something like that's happening, fluids building up in the body. But most often, it's either A, it hurts eye and there's a bacterial infection, or B, there's something going on behind the eye causing that protrusion. That was a good question I wanted to answer. I think I only read half the question. So it said, since copper kills shrimp, and then said something. So I don't know what the second part said. So I'm assuming it said, why is copper in shrimp foods? That's my guess. It could have said something else. I can't find it now. Because pretty much everything needs trace elements. So it's an amount. Lots of copper will definitely kill shrimp. Little bits of copper, it needs to actually build, bones and structure and that kind of stuff. And I always use the analogy for humans. Like, we need water. We're a lot of water. You can actually drink so much water, it's harmful for you. And so correct amounts of nutrients in correct doses to different organisms are very helpful. So like some salt, good for humans. Too much salt, not good for humans. Same for fish, same for inverts. Like, there's a lot of that kind of stuff. And so if that was the question, I hope that answers it. How come the aquarium behind you always changes? Well, I wouldn't say it always changes. I think, so it popped up for my wife's Facebook that Jimmy and I were working on this tank 3 years ago. I think people lose track of time, and for the most part, we switch it up about once a year. So you kind of had the clown loach, tiger barb, community tank that went on. That one went on a little bit longer, like 14, 16 months or something. Then we did goldfish, right? And now we're doing this tank. And so to me, it's what keeps my interest. And what I've found most times is after a year or so, I want to switch things up to keep me interested. Because the reality is you still have to take care of an aquarium, and you don't want to dread it, right? You don't want to be like, oh, I have to go take care of the fish I hate. And so if me adding a fish, taking a fish away, doing something piques my interest, when it comes time to clean the filters and scrub the algae and do the things that need to be done, trim the plants, if I'm more invested in it because I'm enjoying it more, that makes it easier for me. So that's most often why my aquariums change. Yeah, my wife is calling me nonstop. So I'm going to answer this on air real quick. Yes, I'm live. What can I do for you?
Where are you at?
What's that?
Where are you at right now?
I'm live on the internet in front of YouTube.
Alright, never mind. We can't get a hold of Mom in an hour. I'm going to be home in 20 minutes. You just keep doing your thing and then I'll go check on her.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I didn't know that you were live. I
All right, love you. Bye-bye. Well, it seems my live stream must come to an end. The membership knows that we had a family emergency. I was trying to sneak in a live stream. The person that had a family emergency has come home from the hospital, but unfortunately no one's been able to get a hold of her for an hour. And that means someone's got to go see if she's okay. I'm going to go do that right now. So I appreciate all the members and the super chats and all that. I apologize I couldn't stay longer. And I hope you guys see this as kind of earnest in that I really am trying to fit these live streams in. There's just a lot going on, and I'll try to do some more community posts and all that. But, you know, my wife is now frantically driving home as fast as she can, which I'm going to call her back and say, no, I'm headed over there. Please take your time. And I appreciate all you guys, and we will catch up later. My apologies, and thank you.